You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.
Hello, hello, hello out there in podcast land. You have reached Johnny Has the Keys, where we talk about horror movies and science fiction films and those key elements that help lift them above the average genre fare. If you're joining us for the first time, we would like to welcome you. I'm not sure how you found us, but we are out there on many different platforms. So welcome, and we hope you like what you hear or see. If you're returning, well, welcome back. We're glad to have you too. We appreciate your comments and your suggestions, and we want you to keep them coming because sometimes we run out of ideas. Very rarely, but we do. My name is Tim. I am here with my friend and co-podcast partner, David Horton. David, how are you doing today?
I'm okay. You know, whenever you do the intro, I kind of start feeling like Teller from Penn and Teller. For some reason, I'm nodding and I'm animated and everything, but I'm not saying anything.
Oh my gosh.
I'm trying to, do it for the YouTube, like you told me, sort of
that's
thing.
Hilarious. So, I have met Penn, by the way, in Washington, D.C., and he is gigantic. It's like meeting Andre the Giant. He is a very big man.
I got to work with them twice on two different corporate events, and they're both very unique, very interesting. Yeah. What have I been doing? I actually have something I wanted to try today to surprise you with. Because if you are new to Johnny Has the Keys, you don't know that Tim and I, we don't rehearse or script or do any of this ahead of time. This is just all blind to each of us because we want to get our honest reactions to it, sort of thing, whatever the topic is. And we like to start with, what have you been doing your genre week? Well, naturally, I have been still going on my cinephiles guys, listening to their podcast. Mm-hmm. And, they mostly do classic movies. So they'll do Lawrence of Arabia or Bridge on the River Kwai, Godfather, that sort of thing. But they've occasionally delved into horror movies. So I thought, hey, since that's what we do, let's see what we'll do, And it's very interesting because I just listened, and this is a little bit off topic, but I just listened to Wrath of Khan because they did Wrath of Khan. And they mentioned, this was before you could buy your tickets online and you couldn't do it. You had to get at the theater like 6 hours before the movie and stand in line. And this guy goes, and he said it exactly, whatever the date was. And I don't recall it, but he said,
something in 82.
Yeah.
Summer of 82.
He said like June 17th, 1982 at 6:05 p.m. I was number 2 in line, and that motherfucker in front of me deserves to die.
That's hilarious.
Because he had been in line. He goes, I left there immediately after school to get in line, and that fucker beat me. But anyway, so I thought I'd listen to some of their podcasts. So one of the ones I listened to for horror was The Thing, which happened to be officially the first movie we ever covered on Johnny Has the Keys.
Yeah, it was our second episode.
Episode we did, and I was amazed at how just wrong they were about so many things.
God, that's sacrilegious.
They were right, but they were making the wrong assumptions, if that makes sense. So they had a lot of the production stuff down. They knew Rob Bottin. They knew it was his first big, movie sort of thing. They knew Stan Winston had done a couple of, a lot of the stuff that we covered when we did the podcast and the research that we had done. And they talked about, the original novella, the performances. They both really like Kurt Russell, like we do. So they talked about that a lot and how just that one scene with him and the torch and the dynamite when he's frozen and he's shivering and he's going, just the way that's done and da-da-da. But anyway, it spurred me to say, okay, so this week when I talked to Tim, I'm going to ask some of the questions that they, in my opinion, either got wrong or didn't have the answer to. And I can't remember if we did the answers on the podcast or not, but I thought it might be cool. So The Thing, John Carpenter's.
All right. 1982.
Yes,
also.
Correct. And actually, what, a week after E.T., wasn't it? A week?
Something like
after
that.
E.T.?
Yeah.
And
Blade Runner was in there somewhere too. Yeah.
Well, because they mentioned it and we mentioned it too, that part of the reason that this movie didn't do so well is because on the other side of the cinema, you had the nice alien who just wanted to go home. And now in this one, you got the alien that wants to take over everybody.
Well, you had sci-fi sweet and sci-fi horror, and then you had sci-fi in the middle with Blade Runner. I can't remember how they all came out, but roughly the same time. And it kind of diluted, E.T. diluted both of them, really.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and it's only like 4 or 5 questions, but I wanted to get your take on it. So, remember the scene where Blair has the gun and the axe, and he is shooting at everybody and everything else before they trank him, right? Was he the alien at that time?
I don't think so.
Okay. See, they were adamant that he was, and he was faking. And I went, no, I totally disagree.
The alien got him when he was isolated.
That's what I think. That before he went to the shed, he was human.
Yeah.
So when he's doing all
he was hilarious. And that's one of Steve Rowe's favorite scenes when he's just cussing, God damn it, and just swinging that axe. And
I'm going to kill you all.
And he wants over in the corner, cowering.
Yeah. He wants to get out. And when he's trashing the helicopter, this guy on the Cinephile said, well, the reason he trashes the helicopter is to have parts to build the alien spaceship. And I went, no, that is totally not correct. He, in my opinion, no, he did not do that. He was still human and was trying to keep the alien from getting away, in my opinion. Okay, right. So you agree with that? So,
I do. Moving on,
question 2. Did Norris, because Norris, the very famous scene with the defibrillator and everything else, obviously he was an alien.
Right.
Did he know? Was that all a ploy in order to attack everybody? Or was the alien taken aback by the heart attack or the physical condition of the body?
I think the alien was taken back by the physical condition. I'm pretty sure Norris was the shadow we see when the dog walks into the room and you just see the silhouette.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's my next question.
And then later, when he's on the table having the heart attack, I think that's just something the alien's not used to, or he thinks that he's being attacked when the doctor's trying to defibrillate him.
Yeah, I've always, since the first time I saw it in 82, I've always interpreted it as the alien took him over, but didn't realize that his body had this condition.
A defect. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I kind of disagree. I think the shadow is Palmer. I think from then on, most of the movie, Palmer is an alien.
Okay. It could be. The shadow looked heavier set to me. That's why I said Norris.
Interesting.
But, okay. I could see
because
that.
I've always thought
it's one of those Hitchcockian, flares that you're not really supposed to know who it is.
Right. And perfectly done. Right. Yes. Okay. Almost 2. So one of the things that they said I thought was interesting was, do you think Blair was building the spaceship by himself, or could Norris and Benning have been helping him? And I thought, that kind of explains, because I remember us talking about the fact that, because, even McCready says, Blair's been busy down here, kind of thing, because, that's a huge freaking thing to have built in a day or 2 days or whatever.
It's a little bit, it stretches the line of disbelief or whatever.
Right.
The suspension of disbelief. I agree. And I had not really ever considered that, but I would have to watch the movie again to see when and where they died to know the timeline. But yeah, it's possible that they could have helped him, I think.
So I've got when they're taken over. We know when Bennings is taken over because we actually see it, but we don't know when Norris and Parker are
Bennings is
taken over.
the redhead that's they set on fire, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
guy. Yeah, that guy. And then the last question that was raised by them that I thought was pretty interesting is, do you think the movie is an indictment on AIDS? And I thought, wow, it was 82. I hadn't thought of that. But the fact that this is something that's unknown, we don't know how to stop it, it keeps growing and it kills people.
No, I don't think it's
You don't think he went that deep with exploring it?
No, I don't think that the information was available yet because that was too early. I mean, even Rock Hudson didn't come out with admitting it till 86. So back then it was still, I don't even know if AIDS, the word, existed yet. I mean, it was known as like a gay cancer. That's what a lot of people referred to it. I mean, it may have existed then, but it wasn't as prominent in 82. And they didn't film it in 82. They probably filmed it in 80 or 81. So I just don't think that the time works with that at all. But I mean, I could see where you could say it's a metaphor now in a way.
Yeah, definitely. Now you could look back in retrospect, but it was very interesting because they are very similar to you and I in so many ways when they're talking about a film and the way they do it. And
you
the way
need to tell them that they need to listen to the beginning of this one then, so they can hear us talking about them.
And the way they, just their experiences, they're obviously very similar in age to us. They talk about the same kind of things of, rushing to get that VHS copy as soon as it came out at the store because you hadn't seen the movie since it was in the theater and you had to see it again, kind of thing. Or that was your first turn on to the movie was through VHS, never in a theater.
Right. Well, and I was just talking a few weeks ago about waiting in the lobby to get into the second showing of Creepshow and hearing everybody screaming at the end of that movie. And we're like, what the fuck is going on at the end of this movie that everybody is freaking out?
Right.
Yeah. That's great.
What about you? So that was my genre. What have you done?
Well, you're going to laugh and be astounded when I tell you, because we're yet again on the same wavelength. I have been watching a show that I told you was not very good as far as the format. It's a little too fast and a little too funny, but I decided to watch these because they're covering several of the same movies that we have covered. And the show is called The Movies That Made Us. It is on Netflix. They don't always get the main people. They don't always have the right information. But I watched this. This season, they've had a lot of horrors. And I've watched Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Aliens. And they are all movies that we have covered.
Yep.
So
every one of those.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like I said, I wish they were a little more serious and a little less pop culture-y tongue-in-cheek with their information.
Yeah, because they did. I remember watching the first season. They had Gump. Didn't they do Forrest Gump?
Yeah, and Raiders maybe or something.
No, they did the one I don't like, Dirty Dancing, and Back to the Future. I think was their first season, and I watched them all, and they're very. I mean, you kind of said it best in the text. It's kind of like what was it? Not a VH1, but it was
like that pop-up video they used to do on VH1.
Yeah, or the other one that was like what was it? It was like a documentary show, but very tongue-in-cheek in the writing. They try to tell jokes in the video edits.
Things
the way
fast.
They do stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
They move on before you've had time to really resonate with what they've said. And I don't like that. Maybe it's because I speak slow sometimes. I don't know. The first episode that I watched was the Halloween one. So they did not have Jamie Lee Curtis or John Carpenter, but they did have Nick Castle and Mustafa Khan. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting to hear Mustafa's information about this movie and how he got into the business and wanted to do a horror movie. He was the producer, but he started off as like a distributor.
Yep.
And anyway, all that stuff was fascinating. I watched Friday the 13th, and Sean Cunningham is on there, and he said, yes, we were out to rip Halloween off. We knew it made a ton of money, and we wanted to make a ton of money. They basically it's got information that we didn't have, which I love, because I'm like, I didn't know that. I wish I'd have known that. Like, they got shut down and didn't think they were going to finish the movie because they ran out of money and stuff, that kind of stuff that you love to hear, but you don't often know about. And then I watched the Nightmare on Elm Street one, which did have Heather and did have Robert Englund.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it did not have Wes Craven, of course, because he's dead. Right. But some of the people that were in these other ones are dead now. So I don't know when some of these interviews are probably lifted from past interviews. And then the one that just blew me away the most, I watched last night, and it was Aliens. And I mean, they went over all that stuff we were talking about with the crew rebelling on James Cameron.
Oh, yeah. They did not like him.
No, but they went into more detail about it. Like, we knew there was not an envy, but an allegiance to Ridley Scott, and them thinking of it being a British film, and Cameron, who was this crazy American that, was taking over and didn't know what he was doing. Well,
his girlfriend wife was the producer.
And she was known as they called her the pixie with an axe.
Yeah.
She took no shit. But anyway, they talked about that. And remember, I told you that they had not seen Terminator. Well, it had been released in the States, but it had not been released in England. So nobody knew who he was or that he was capable.
Right.
And basically, I don't remember us talking about this, but Sigourney Weaver is on this. They interview, oh man, the one with Aliens, they have everybody just about. They have Jeanette Goldstein, all the crew except for Bill Hudson, all the like
of
military,
course.
Except for Bill Hudson.
That's great. That's great.
It is great. And Sigourney, I can't remember who said it, but they said the reason the movie didn't implode after he fired that assistant director, because he said the assistant director was undermining him.
He
had
was.
to get rid of him. So he fired him, and he was very respected, and the crew rebelled. And they said the only way they got peace on that set was Sigourney. And she was the star. She was friends with the crew. They knew her. She knew Ridley. And she had a meeting with Gale and Cameron. She gave a speech, made him give a speech, and made him apologize. And everything went smooth from then on out. Because they said that she was the piece they needed to settle everything and move forward. And then the movie just went fucking crazy because they made so much money. So did
they talk about the whole tea time thing and the fact that he hated it and he cussed at the tea cart lady and all that?
Hated it. Yes. And they even talked about some little old lady that came in with
the tea cart lady.
Yeah, and he
it's all tea, dude.
Got all ugly with her, and one of the crew members was like, "This poor woman has no idea what's going on. She's just here to bring tea," and he's yelling at her.
Yeah, that's great.
But they also had Roger Corman on there. It was old interviews, and he graduated from the school of Roger Corman, and Roger Corman was like, it's time to make this movie work. We have to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because that's how you do a movie. And that's the mindset that James Cameron had going into this. And unions weren't having it.
No, not in England. Not at all. What do you mean, cool. Lad? Fine.
And they even with some boy. But anyway, I know we've gone on and on way too long, but that is just so funny that you and I are on the same wavelength. You're doing it with podcast and I'm doing it with TV.
Yeah. Just trying to revisit the old stuff, because I mean, that's why we do that's why we do this. I mean, we love these genres and these movies, and there's so much history to them.
Well, I think you need to reach out to those guys and just, say, hey, I mean, I think I put them in my podcast. I haven't listened to one yet.
You should,
because they should probably be listening to us too.
They've got like 206 episodes or something.
Holy shit. They're 100. They must have started a little bit before us.
So, because I mean, their con one, I think dates to 2018.
Wow.
So yeah. So they've been doing it a little bit longer. But
how many do they do a year or a season?
That I don't know, because I don't see them as seasons. They just have them in order on the podcast link.
Right. Right.
They don't divide theirs up. They're kind of like our other guys at 30 and Nerdy that, you don't know what year, you just know the number.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Okay.
So, but yeah, give them look up a movie that you would like and see what they do. But maybe not one of your horror ones. Maybe something mainstream.
Oh, they're going to piss me off.
Because one of them, I can't remember his name. I think his name is Steve. But he says categorically he does not like horror movies. They scare him. They literally scare him. He does not like them. So when the other guy who loves horror movies forces them to do one like The Thing, the whole time he's going, man, this is scary shit. Man, I don't even want to watch. Why are we watching? This is scary, sort of thing. So, but yeah. So, and like I said, they're mostly mainstream. They have a few science fiction, a few horror, but mostly it's mainstream movies that they do. But
so we're not very competitive. That's cool.
No, not in that respect. Not at all. But we do horror and science fiction, which we should probably do now since people tuned in for it, sort of thing.
Okay. Would you qualify this topic as science fiction?
This film today, it is science fiction, but it also scared me because it was so bizarre.
Well, it's also animated. So I'm saying, would you classify it as sci-fi, or would you classify it as animated, or I guess both?
No, well, you can have sci-fi animation.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's not you have horror animation for that matter. Look at
little vignettes in Creepshow.
Well, or look at the one that got me was Heavy Metal, the one aboard the bomber, the B-52 bomber with the ghouls and everything attacking them and all that.
Yeah,
that's a scary
I'm actually
animation.
also remembering that that Train to Busan's prequel was animated, and it was good.
Yeah, you said it was animated. But before we get into opinions, so what we are covering today is a little gem, a very short film, actually. It's only an hour and 12 minutes. It's called Fantastic Planet. It was originally entitled La Planète Sauvage. It was made in 1973. It was directed by René Laloux.
Sorry. I love saying
Laloux. Had 3 writers. Laloux, a partner of his called Roland Topar, and Stefan Wool. The only person I recognized at all in this was Barry Bostwick, who was in the English translation version. He was the adult character.
Did you watch the English translation?
No.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I watched the French with subtitles. The original.
I did too. Because I was wondering if I would hear Barry Bostwick's voice speaking French. I wasn't sure.
Right. So from what I understand, he's only in the English version.
Okay.
So we didn't get him. So forget him. Think of him as Brad.
Well, I have something that you probably don't know that you will recognize that you didn't mention. But when you mentioned Roland Topor, the writer, one of the writers, do you know where we've seen him recently?
Seen him recently?
Yes.
He was. Wait, I've got it in my notes. Hold on. Yes, I do. Hold on. I'll tell you. He was in Nosferatu.
Yes, the bad one with Klaus Kinski. He played Renfield.
Yes.
So he's an actor too.
Well,
yeah. That's subjective.
IMDb kind of phrases it best. They have a one-sentence synopsis of this movie, which is on a faraway planet where blue giants rule, oppressed humanoids rebel against their machine-like leaders. And that's the entire synopsis. I mean, there's a little bit more to it. You are basically following the life of this one guy. Terror is his name, which is probably French for something, but I don't know what.
I was thinking terrestrial. I don't know.
Probably they call him Terror for he is a yeah,
because he is close to the earth.
But he is a baby in the opening scene and basically grows, and you find out at the very end that they named the actual colony after him or whatever. But he goes through this oppressive life of being a pet and then running away and joining people of his own kind, but then he doesn't fit in with them either. And then he does end up helping them, eventually leads them. They go to a distant satellite of the planet. And there they find out the big secret of the blue giants, and that results in them, basically forming their own colony, sort of thing. Had you seen this movie before?
I have never seen this movie before. I didn't even know it existed, and I want to know what kind of hippie ass drug laden propaganda mumbo jumbo it was, because I mean the whole time I was watching it I was like, I feel like I'm on LSD. This movie is out there.
Definitely. This is Yellow Submarine if done by Pierre Boulez or whatever. It was, I had never seen it either, I must admit. I had always heard about it. I had heard, science fiction from the 70s. It's Fantastic Planet. You got to watch it. It's one of a kind. It's so unique. It's so different. I was like 10 minutes into this. That's my first watch look, was like 10 minutes into it. I went, oh my God, how did we pick this?
It was one of those times where I was like rapid fire texting you. What is this shit? But I was laughing the whole time. I was like, the music is like a cross between Dario Argento's like 70s Giallo and Pink Floyd. A very early Pink Floyd. At least Yellow Submarine had Beatles music in it, so it had that going for it.
True. So true. It was. I don't think it was an easy watch. It was definitely an effort for me. I don't know if we had not agreed that we were going to do it on the podcast, I don't know if I'd have finished the movie.
He is punishing me for all those foreign films I made him watch. He is punishing me.
And I was doing the same thing on the other side. I was going, yeah, here's a freaking foreign movie. Show you, see what foreign movies are like.
I give him a Korean zombie movie. He gives me French animation.
French animation. And I'm sure, some of our listeners or watchers out there maybe love this movie. I would love personally for you to tell me why, or what you like about it. What was your initial reaction? What was your reaction? Other than, oh my God, this is trippy as hell.
I thought the very opening scene was very brutal for animation. It's almost like seeing a kid pick the wings off a fly or do something like a magnifying glass with an ant, and it's just a kid flicking this woman with her baby, and then the woman ends up dying, and the kid keeps the baby as a pet.
Well, trivia point, this was the first PG-rated animated movie ever in history. Mm. So, and part of it is, it's kind of brutal in places.
It was kind of brutal. But I was like, okay, that is kind of a good science fiction motif where humans are the pets of another race.
Yep.
But then it just started going off into these weird places. And I was like, I don't know. It kind of lost me. I mean, I watched it, but I was like, why did that box eat that guy and sink into the ground? And what was there was like this cotton candy looking thing that was spitting. It was either spitting stuff dripping out. Huh?
It was just dripping. Yeah.
I was like, what is that?
Yeah,
it was really weird stuff.
I'm sure
like Carson.
For good stuff, we can talk about the thematics under it and the themes I think that they try to discuss in it, which I think is good. But the thing that really threw me off was the animation style. Mm-hmm. I'm not really big on this French style that's very flat feeling. I mean,
there's a huge key in it.
It's very South Parky to me, you know.
I think it's very Terry Gilliam from Monty
It's very
Python.
Terry Gilliam, yes, but it's very, very flat and long pacing issues that I had, where it would like suddenly just show a close up of somebody's eyes, and you're supposed to get an emotion, I guess, out of that.
And then they would just turn a different color, and
they would just turn a different color, and then it would just cut, and you go, what? What was I supposed to? Yeah,
I'm telling you, these were hippies that made this movie.
Oh, by far, these people had hallucinogens in their system somewhere.
Yeah,
at one point, yes. And there were other things, like you said. It would show an egg, and the egg would crack open, and there would be a little creature in there, some weird-looking creature, and all of a sudden, another creature comes up and licks it. And it goes, oh, yeah, and it turns its back, and the other creature licks it, and you think, oh, that's its mom. And then suddenly the creature eats it. And you
I know. And that's what reminded me of Terry Gilliam, except most of them weren't funny. Terry Gilliam stuff is funny. This stuff was just weird and not funny.
It was weird. There was a lot of nature, though, in this. As far as if you talked about, let's try to do this with live action or even with modern animation, and it's world building, there's a tremendous amount of world building in this. It may be weird and goofy and like Dr. Seuss on acid, but it's very unique. You see a lot of life. You hear the sound effects all the way through this of nature and weirdness and birds and things, and stuff. So there's a lot of audio work in the movie. But it was so bizarre in places.
It is. And I don't have a hell of a lot of notes on it because even IMDb didn't have a lot to call from.
Well, it won an award at Cannes, so I think people have to say, well, it won an award at Cannes, so it must be good.
Well,
I think Cannes awarded it because it's a French animation.
It's also, if you want to go to awards already, it's also on the 1001 movies.
What it is not. There is no way. No, that's insane. There are at least, I think, 2 or 3 movies that we've covered that weren't on that list.
I know.
That should kick this little.
That's exactly what went through my head when I read it. I was like, oh, wait a minute. No, this should have been on there, not that.
Definitely not that. No. I mean,
and it was a special award. It doesn't say what the award was. And it was a nominee for the Palme d'Or, which I think is Film of the Year.
Yeah, it is.
Lalou.
But I cannot justify this as like even good storytelling. It does have the thematics. I mean, I do, in my notes, I like the fact that they're trying to talk about racism and dictatorships and fear and propaganda and hate and, all these themes are in there, but there is no character change. Not one character changes in the film other than Tyr, who does grow up. But he doesn't, as a hero's journey, he doesn't reach some point and have some revelation and change out of it or something. He's just doing his thing. None of the blue giants change. They say they should. Oh, half of them are going to us, kill all the Ohms. And the other half are going, no, we need to protect the Ohms. Or, just let them go. Who cares? And then in the little narration at the end, it says, and they lived happily ever after, or what the hell ever. But you don't see that. There's no emotional catharsis, I think, other than shock value at times. So,
and why do they get in those little bubbles and float up to the other planet and then land on the naked bodies and start having sex? Because they can't consummate. They have to use statuary to consummate. I didn't get that at all.
Well, the impression I got from it was because it's Tyr's It's Tears Animation or Tears Animation that's doing it, or narration. And he says they found out their secret. They meditate so that they could join with other races from other planets.
Headless statuary races?
Well, no, you notice that the blue head came down on one statue and then the red head came down on the other statue. And then they had their libidinous practice. That's what he called it, libidinous practices, instead of they screwed
okay,
or whatever.
I'm use that. Libidinous practices.
So I didn't understand. So I'm with you. I'm not really, I don't think I fully grasped their concept for that, nor the fact that suddenly the ohms have this piercing laser that can destroy the statuary. So I'm not, and that's really the climax of the movie. That's what we're supposedly building to.
That's why I mentioned it. Yeah.
And I went, and I felt, it's chorus line, and I felt nothing. It was just there was nothing there.
That's a good chorus line reference.
At first, I thought something would happen between him and her. The girl that kind of pseudo saved him with the ohms.
Yeah, the one that told him that she was wearing a fake collar.
Right, and they would end up. They're going to end up becoming, a couple and, creating the breed of ohms that will rebel or whatever, like Conquest of the Planet of the Apes or something. But it didn't happen. Do
you think they got a PG rating because of the old lady with the baggy tits that was running around?
They were not just baggy. They were pointed.
They were pointed. And I was like, maybe that's why they got a PG, because it was animated nudity. Because I didn't really understand why it would be PG rated other than that.
Well, in several points, it was full frontal animated nudity, male and female.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah.
So that's probably why. It's definitely adult themed, I think, in a lot of it.
Well, yeah, because sex does play a part in it. Yeah.
Well, and at the very beginning, the blue giant.
Psychedelic sex.
Yeah. Psychedelic sex. Ooh, that should be that's going to be my new band name. No, but at the very beginning, like you said, the blue giant actually tears the mother's clothes off.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
And then, just like in one of my keys is just a weird, twisted kind of Logan's Run, is they all seem to have like one breast exposed. That seems to be just a thing that we're going to do for our society, is we're going to leave one breast exposed. It's just like in Logan's Run, they're all going to be wearing the most chiffony, shortest skirts or dresses that we can have.
Well, and I didn't even put Logan's Run in my keys because I don't have hardly any keys. I've never seen anything like this. But in Logan's Run, they kept track of them with the device in their palm. In this, they had those collars. So that's very similar to Logan's Run too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you had to have Yellow Submarine. That's a huge key for this.
Oh, yeah. I
this
did,
is
because of the animation alone. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got pacing, symbolism, themes, sound effects. And that's it. I'm done. I'm over.
You know what? I'm glad that our intro went long, because I was like, we're not going to have a lot to talk about with this movie. And I was like, I'd much rather talk about Halloween and The Thing or aliens
I do think the design elements were unique. Some of the creature designs were just bizarre. Yeah. And to your point, it would be interesting to see a Rob Bottin or somebody like that try to do this practically.
Ooh.
That would be neat, because he did do such bizarre, strange creations, and being able to see that. Although this is one that I kept thinking while I was watching it, would this work as a remake at all? And I don't think it would. I still don't think the story is strong enough or unique enough. I mean, I only have like two other keys. My biggest key is a little book that you've read, I know, because you love the movie so much, but it's called Monkey Planet, which was the inspiration for Planet of the Apes.
Oh, Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, it's Pierre Boulle's original.
Why do you say Monkey Planet instead of Planet of the Apes?
Because that's the way
you're referring to the book, or you're referring to the movie?
Yeah, the book.
I have not read the book. That's why I'm asking.
The book
is more like the book.
Yeah, this is it's a very dystopian French technology is evil sort of
that
thing.
Makes a lot of sense.
And there's the feel of that in this, because that book was what, 62, 63? You wrote the novel?
Funny that you mention it, but I have it right here.
Wow. See, and you've never read it, but you've got it.
I don't know how to. Can you see that? No, you
put
can't.
It down in front of. Put it in front of your chest. There you go. There you go.
Oh, in front of my chest. Yeah.
Yep.
It's written by Pierre Boulle, and I just have never read it. This is an old paperback I have of it. The movie tie-in, actually.
Because
I can tell you when it was written.
In the novel, they have airplanes and helicopters and technology and cars and all that. It's not like they did in the movie. So
1963.
Yeah, that's what I thought. 62 or 63. So this would have been 10 years earlier that he wrote that. And then 10 years later, Lalou was obviously influenced by it, in my opinion. I mean, that's a direct key to me because it just feels like
that makes sense because both of them are French and both of them are science fiction. So
yeah, and your pets rebel against you in this kind of dystopian world.
And you know what? That is a strong, that you could actually put Planet of the Apes in there for that too, because they are treated like pets in that movie. I was going to ask you because I can't think of it off the top of my head, but there's got to be a movie. I want to say it's like Choo Choo Bang Bang, but that's not it. Where adults are kept as pets by children. And I keep wanting to see Dick Van Dyke. That's not it. I know that's not it. And it's not Incredible Shrinking Man. But however, they do actually, don't they give him a dollhouse to live in? I think they do. Yeah.
Remember, because the tarantula is what scares him out of it.
Right. So it is Incredible Shrinking Man would be another then. That's
and of course it was like every other week on Land of the Giants was that, where they would keep them in a cage or in an aquarium or box in the closet.
I was thinking more though of like the child terrorizing the, you know what I'm saying? Like at the beginning when that, it seems like I've seen that somewhere else.
Remember Twilight Zone, the Twilight Zone episode that starts out and they're kind of, all these characters are kind of all trapped and they don't know why they're trapped, and they keep trying to get out of the enclosure that they're in, and they end up finally like getting on each other's shoulders and getting up to the edge of it, and it turns out at the very end that it's a toy box and they're all dolls, and the kids looking down, the little girls looking down at them and everything. But yeah, that whole adults being played with by children kind of concept, that's a cool. There must be a movie that anyway.
It's not that important, but that's a motif that I see in this, or an element that strikes me as something I've seen before, as far as a key. Because I don't have a lot of keys. Like I said, I've never seen anything like this movie before.
I've got one last trivia thing, which is this movie took 5 years to make.
I know. I was like, really?
It took you 5. I'm sorry. They shot Halloween in 30 days or something, and you can do. It took you 5 years.
The animation has no emotion. So there's not even like little facial movement. So what was so hard about it?
And remembering it is so it is a foreign film. I don't relate well to foreign films usually. And so I kept trying to, prejudge myself saying, is this just your own lack of being able to understand foreign movies, or is there some French cultural dynamic of animation that is like this, or blah blah blah, or whatever? And I was like you, I was going, I have never ever seen anything like this.
It's mushrooms.
It's mushrooms, dude. It's mushrooms. It's bad window pane.
It's peyote.
Yeah. Okay, so my last key then I actually got from IMDb. It wasn't me. It was I stole it. But there is a movie, and we should add it to our list. I really think. Huh? What'd you say?
I didn't say anything, or did I?
You said something. You might have. But there's a movie, we should add it to our list if we don't, called The Cell. Have you ever seen that, the one with Jennifer Lopez?
I think I did, but I don't remember it. I want to say that came out in the 90s, didn't it?
Yes. And she basically plays a person who can go into somebody's dreams, and they put her into the dream or the mind of a serial killer. And she's trying to hunt him down and find out where his last victim is because he's unconscious.
I don't remember any of it, if I did see it.
It's very surrealistic and very incredible costume design, incredible photography. The guy that
does she wear like really ornate costumes?
Extremely ornate. That's crazy headdresses.
Yeah,
and gowns.
That's what I remember of it.
Wild. Yeah, the costume design I think was nominated for an Oscar. But there's a section in it where she is watching something on television, and much like in Halloween, they're watching The Thing. In this, she is watching Fantastic Planet.
Okay.
Which is,
I wonder who directed The Cell and what his relation is.
That would be, I can look that up really quick because that is one we should add to our list, just because it is a really unique. It was made in 2000. It says came out in 2000. IMDb says it's directed by Tarsim Singh. And
can you tell what nationality or what?
He seems Indian. And he did.
Is it an American production?
It seems to be. I think so. He seemed to do a lot of. He's done some Bollywood stuff, and he's done a lot of. It seems to be female centric. Anyway, Jennifer Lopez, Vince Vaughn, Vincent D'Onofrio is the villain in it.
All these Vincents.
Yeah, we should put that in our list. That would be something to be fun to do.
Is it sci-fi?
I would consider it science fiction, yes.
Okay, because I don't think it's horror.
No, it's definitely science fiction.
Okay.
Yeah. But
well, I put it in there. I mean, I put it in the keys. I have not added it to the list. If you want
there you go. We survived Fantastic Planet. You have any closing or final thoughts on that thing?
I want to tell you something else about aliens that I saw last night. They had film footage. You may have seen it, of the original prototype mother alien. They called it the black garbage bag monster.
Oh, the garbage bags.
Yeah, and it showed how two people fit in that thing and could make it move and stuff. Mm-hmm. Have you seen that? I was blown away. I was like, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, I knew the trivia that the special effects team that did that show actually
they won an award. It was 4 guys.
But they ended up splitting and forming like 2 different companies.
Oh yeah, I think they did.
2 different special effects companies. Yeah. But yeah, because they were doing a lot of that at the same time, and they were having to bluff Cameron because they were telling him they could do it, and they really had no idea how to do it. So they were experimenting, and finally it worked.
They show another scene where, Jeanette Goldstein is prominent in this. She's being interviewed a lot in it. And she said when they had those crazy giant weapons they had to carry, did you know what those were?
Those are Steadicam rigs.
They were Steadicams, and they just mounted like this giant gun on them. And then when they went to put them on her and her friend, who she's still friends with, and he's in the piece too. He's being interviewed too. The guy that I think he gets scarred, splashed on him. Yeah,
he gets scarred.
They're the ones that have to carry those things. And when they wouldn't work, when they wouldn't mount, James Cameron just goes, gaffer tape. And she said they had to be taped into these things every day. And that the most popular phrase was, have you gone to the bathroom yet? Because you couldn't go to the bathroom once they did it.
After you're in the harness. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I wish I had seen it before we did the broadcast, because there was a lot of stuff in it that I didn't recognize. I was like, that is great, especially the stuff Sigourney talks about.
And so this is the movies that made us, and it's on Netflix, right?
It's Aliens. Yeah.
Okay.
But we're talking about a French film called Fantastic Planet.
Yeah. Were we? Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I guess in conclusion,
I mean, this falls into, and I think we've only had one or two other ones in the history of the podcast, but this falls into those of, I probably wouldn't recommend you watch this movie. I don't see a reason or a value that you would get from watching this movie. Honestly.
No, I don't understand why it's held in such high esteem.
Yeah. There are better animated movies. There's better dystopian movies. There's better, technology threatened revolt and revolution movies.
Logan's Run is more entertaining.
Yeah, and it's not good either.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I would rather watch Logan's Run again than this.
I agree with you. But at least we can say we still covered something that's 1,000. Really? I cannot. I'm going to have to look that up. Are you sure?
Well, I got that from, I didn't look it up on the actual list, but it came from IMDb, which is where I get most of them. So
Wow.
Yeah. And there was something not long ago that wasn't on there. And I was like, really? I mean, I can't remember what it was. It might've been The Birds or something like that. But
yeah, there was one of those we did recently, like within the past 5 that we both went, what? It's not on the 1,001?
Right.
Here we are.
Here we are. And we would like to thank you for listening to us today. Even though we're at somewhat of a loss for words with this French film. And I'm not trying to sound racist at all, because I'm the one that usually advocates us watching foreign films. You know this.
Correct.
Some good, some bad. So, I mean, we just stumbled upon a bad one. Or not a bad one, but one that we just didn't appreciate, I guess.
I would say
if you're joining us for the first time, thank you. Be sure and tell your friends about us, and we'll have a more entertaining film for you next time.
Oh, yeah.
If you're watching us on YouTube, you can hit that subscribe button down at the bottom and ring that bell. We would appreciate it. It's a small gesture on your part, but it means volumes to us. We also have a couple of Patreon shows that are subscription based only if you're into the original Star Trek show or the X-Files. But we also have a lot of free bonus stuff on there as well if you just want to go check it out. And David, I think that will do it for today. What do you say?
It will. We'll see you guys next time.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Can't start the car. Johnny has